So people seem to really like the text from the last video, so I thought I'd show you guys how I made it. I got the idea from my friend Brian, so be sure to give him some credit. So in After Effects, make some text. You can do this by either hitting Layer, New, Text, or you can use this hotkey right here, or if you want to be adventurous, you click this little box right here. I don't really care how you do it, it's really up to you. Seriously, I don't care, I'm not your mother. Have it right, whatever you want. Nice. Position the text wherever you want inside the frame. I'm going to keep it right here. Basically, you want the text exactly where you want it at the end of the animation. Go forward about 10 frames. Press P to open the position and put a keyframe on the position. Go back to the beginning of the timeline and just move the text off the screen. And then you got this little animation. Perfect. Now select both keyframes, hit right click, hit Keyframe Assistant and go to Easy Ease, which you can also get by pressing F9. And you can see it kind of has a smoother animation. To get even smoother and get more of what we're looking for, press this little button right here. That'll open the graph editor. And you should see this curvature thing. And when you click on these frames, you'll see these little handles. On the first handle, you want to move this pretty much to the left. The other handle, you also want to move to the left. So you kind of get this effect. When you do that, it should pop up really fast and slow down at the end. And there you go. That's the main part of the animation. To give this a little more pizzazz, click this button right here and that'll enable motion blur. And then make sure that it's also enabled on the text. And then sometimes you might have to change the position on the first keyframe if it's still showing up on the screen. Sometimes that's just an effect of the motion blur. Once you do that, you should see it comes up. Perfect. Now to do the effect that I did, pretty much all you got to do is duplicate this layer by hitting Command D, offsetting it by 1 frame, and changing the color. Boom. There you go. Now you have the beginnings of the effect I did. You can do this as many times as you want, and there you go. That's pretty much the main effect. Now to make this a little more spicy, one thing I did, which I don't think a lot of people do very often, and they should, is go to composition settings. In frame rate, change it to half of what the final video will be. So for example, my video is going to be 30 frames per second, so I'm going to change it to 15. I wouldn't recommend going any lower than half of the frame rate that you're going to end up going with, because then it's really not going to work as well. But doing this will add just a bit of choppiness and it'll make it look kind of more stylized, I guess. So if you watch it back again, you've got this cool kind of older looking thing. Once again, you might have to change the position a little bit because it can be a little tricky. But there you go. You've got this nice kind of effect here. And you can get as creative as you want with any of this. You can mess with the position, you can mess with the keyframing or whatever. You can even, if you really want to, I'm going to completely restart this. I'm going to delete these ones and I'm going to copy this keyframe. Then I'm going to go to this frame, delete the keyframes. Then what I'm going to do is hit right click, go to pre-compose. You can name this whatever you want. I'm just going to say text animation, bleh. Move all attributes into new composition and hit OK. And then I'm going to paste the keyframes that I had earlier, which you can see right here. It's still doing the same thing. I'm going to enable motion blur here. And then you can do the exact same thing you were doing before where you're offsetting it. There you go. You can see it's doing the same thing again. And you can even, in this case, since it's in a pre-comp, you can't change the text color, but you can add a generate fill. And then you have the fill effect, which changes the color, and you can do that and change the color to whatever. But the reason I did this is because now you can go back into the pre-comp and change this text to whatever you want. So I'm going to go, wahoo, I've done it. Now, it will say wahoo every time. If you did it the way I showed you at the very beginning, basically you'd have to change every single text every single time on every layer. But in this way, you can change the initial text to whatever you want, and it will, basically it's a procedural way of doing this animation. If you don't want text at all, you don't have to do a text. You could do a shape layer, add in a, let's do a star, add a fill to this, right? Nice little red star. And now you've got a little star animation, which is doing the exact same thing, which is perfect. And you can duplicate these as many times as you want, offset them by a few frames. I'm going to make a very lazy decision right here and do an adjustment layer. Go to color correction and hit hue and saturation. Change the hue a little bit. So now you have a bunch of different colors. And you can do that again and again. You can do that as many times as you want. Perfect. Got this cool little effect here. What's cool too is you don't have to have the position being at the bottom if you don't want to. You could easily just have it go off to the side. So go back. Instead of moving it down, you move it off to the side. And then boom, you've got the same effect here. And you can do the exact same thing. You can mess with the rotation, you can mess with the scale. It's pretty nice. And what's nice about the frame rate thing too is it does not have to be something you do just for this animation. You can make a new solid, go to simulation and go to starburst. Have this kind of do this cool frame rate animation thing, right? Then you want to do the exact same thing that you were doing before. There you go. Just offset it a couple times. Add a fill to make it red or whatever color you want. Do it again. I'm going to change it to this green, make it this Christmas thing. And now you've got a star showing up and this cool star thing. I don't know. You can do whatever you want. Seriously, the world is your oyster.